You know, I've been fishing Lake Fork literally since the week it opened. Spent more hours here than probably any lake in my entire life. Just about the time you get to thinking you know it all and you fished all the stumps and all the good cover and the timber and the fishy looking water, you learn something that rocks your world. In this week's show, we're going to pass along a little information that's brand new to me and could unlock the secret for the biggest bass of a lifetime. It's going to be a lot of fun and a little bit mysterious. Hang in here. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
It's time now for your weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors Southwest.
Well, we're at Lake Fork, Texas today. And you know, the fun thing about fishing is that it's a constant learning process. You never quite figure everything out. There's always something on the horizon, some more knowledge to be gained. Last year and this year, a bunch of professional anglers came here to Lake Fork for the Texas Bass Classic, and they wore the huge bass out, all of them. Broke all the records for all the heavyweight stringers that had ever been caught in tournament bass fishing in the history of the state of Texas, and they did it in a way that the fishing public was not really that knowledgeable about, something new. So today, we've brought the Nitro Z8 out to launch into Lake Fork and to tackle my first experience with this relatively new technique to me on trying to catch good quality bass in a way that I've never caught them before. Hey, this could be a lot of fun. It's kind of mysterious, something kind of new, some uncharted territory, and you are going to be along for the ride. So while we're out doing that, the other bonus is that you get all your weekly fishing reports from our expert team of insider reporters on lakes, rivers, and bays in your local area. So it all gets started back at the FSN studio with your weekend planner.
Hello everyone, I'm Bailey Malik filling in for Julie while she spends some time with the newest addition to her family. Congratulations to Julie and Kelly on the arrival of their son, Ryder Scott, who weighed 7 pounds and 10 ounces when he was delivered, and I'm glad to report that the entire family is happy and healthy. Now let's check out the Salooner tables for you to find the best game fish activity of the weekend. The charts are predicting the peak fishing opportunities to start around dawn, and top evening hours should begin at 6:42 on Saturday and 7:30 on Sunday. Sunrise will take place at 6:46, with sunset occurring at 8:19, and night skies will feature a crescent moon that is 32% visible. Stay with us, all of your fishing updates from around the region are on the way, and I'll return with Skeet Reese on this week's Ask the Pro with a question about fishing in hot weather. We're coming right back.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. By Luz, setting a new standard of fishing performance. Feel the difference. By Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland Lures. With our baits, a good day of fishing is in the bag. And by Stren Fishing Lines, the standard of dependability.
There's one. All right, he's on. Coming up the jump. Not a monster, but a start. Anyway, got the back hook. All right, and a fatty too. Look at the belly on that bass, will you? Good cow. Man, look how fat that fork bass is. Hey, welcome back everybody. Well, we've made it out, and we're out doing the mystery deal. And there's part of the equation right there, a big, giant crankbait. And that is a big, deep diving daddy. That sucker will go 20 feet deep. And that's just a chunky slot bass here at Lake Fork. Not a monster by any stretch, but he is doing the correct thing, and I'll explain what that is. What we've done is come out basically out in open water, and we're fishing underwater humps. What we do is we look at the topo map and we isolate these humps that come up on top anywhere from 18 feet to 30 feet. That's right, you heard me right. Some of these humps are 30 feet deep at the very shallowest point. We get out off of it, we make big long casts with that crankbait up onto the hump, rod tip down, we grind it down till it gets in the correct zone, which is as deep as it's going to get, and then we just slow, steady crank it, and we grind that crankbait down deep right on top of these humps. Now I'm going to talk some more about the finer points of some of this, some of the keys to catching the fish, to finding the fish on the humps, and then how to make them strike and catch them. We'll talk about that some, but that gets us started. Got a good bass going. Let's get you going with some fishing and lake reports from where you live.
Hey friends, Captain Kevin Broussard here with your Fox Sports Louisiana Outdoor Report. I'm talking saltwater fishing, talking summertime action on Calcasieu Lake right now. As you can see, lots of trout and a few redfish are biting. These trout right here are getting caught on live shrimp under popping corks during the middle part of the day over the oyster reefs. Early in the morning, a lot of soft plastic action. I tell you what, the whole Louisiana Gulf Coast right now is good. Got some good friends down in Dulac, Dularge, catching lots of trout and some redfish. Y'all want to make a trip? The number's on the screen. You can give us a call. Right now, we're going to turn it over to Cajun Phil and let him tell you about some Louisiana bass action.
Remember last week I was telling you about these anglers that was fishing a bass tournament up at Toledo Bend, fishing at night, keeping their boat in, say, 30 foot of water, but they're throwing up on humps and ridges about 15, 18 foot. Since then, I've got about 4 phone calls this week of other people fishing at night. A couple of anglers also fishing Toledo Bend said, Cajun, they're not all deep, they're not all on humps and ridges. He said, me and my partner, we've been fishing almost every night whenever we go up to Toledo Bend. He said, we're throwing spinner baits all night long. We're staying in 3 foot of water to the bank. He said, we throw either a white skirt or a black skirt. We don't throw the same color. Big blades that make a big thump. And he said, we're catching some good bass. He said, they actually move up in that shallow water at night, so they're not all deep up on Toledo Bend at night. We also got calls from anglers fishing the Falls River at night. They too fishing spinner baits and buzz baits. They're fishing the boat docks.
Hey, welcome back everybody. We're still out here on Lake Fork today. And I tell you, I've been hooked up for a little while here with this fish, and I don't know what I've got, but I've got a fish on here out on this deep hump. That's a good bass right there. Oh, calm down. Get in that net. Big one. Yeah. All right. We're out here on top of a hump that's 20 feet deep on top, falls into 40 feet all the way around it. And I got a big old largemouth bass. Man, that sucker is a great one. That fish will weigh probably 7 pounds, maybe, something like that. That's a great one. We're gonna let that fish swim back nice and gently. Right over the side. I fought that fish for a long time. Well, let's talk about an important factor about this style of fishing. They live out here in the area all summer long and even into the fall, but they only move up on top of the hump when they actively feed. So what you have to do is you've got to get a milk run going. You've got to get 6, 8, 10 of these things, and you've just got to hop from hump to hump to hump. You make maybe 30 casts on each one of them until you find one where the fish are up on top and actively feeding. That's just a big spoon. It's a big 5-inch long, 1-ounce spoon. And all I'm doing with this spoon on top of the hump, I'm still sitting right on top of it. And all I'm doing is just making medium length pitches out there, about maybe 30, 40 feet out, letting it free spool down to the bottom. Once it hits the bottom, here's the key. I'm not jigging it. Down to the bottom it goes, click it into gear and make about 5 or 6 smooth cranks. Swim the spoon up, push the button, let it flutter back down like this. Click it back into gear, 4 or 5 pulls, swim it up, and then let it flutter back down. A lot of times a big old bass will hit it, like that big old pig did right there. Time for more fishing reports from your area.
Hey, Oklahoma State fish, the white bass, are fat, sassy, and active in many places across the state at this time. Now, still lots of great reports of schooling activity early and late in the days, and then if you're in one of the lakes that has some current being drawn through, especially during the week hours, around the bridge pillars are still paying off really well. What I like to do this time of year, and did recently with an outing to Fort Gibson Lake with several of my family members, is to go down deeper with a jig and spoon or a grub It's really predictable this time of year. You can duplicate that pattern at many places across the state and many places within an individual lake. Now, we found most of our fish 15 to 22 feet deep. I think that's pretty common depth across the state at this time. Lots of schools of shad at that depth. We were fishing in front of a submerged island, so that little bit of current was putting that bait school right up against that island. Those fish are in there big time. Those fish do concentrate this time of year. Once you find them, you can stay on them for a long time. It's usually predictable for several days. Our best luck, 1 ounce jig and spoon and a 3.5 inch Jean LaRue rally grub. You can see we've gone back to some bigger baits now. There's lots of big schools of big shad as well as some little tiny shad, but the big baits are doing well. The fish are really aggressive. Anytime you drop down a spoon and a grub, you have a chance of catching multiple species. We also caught some nice catfish in amongst these white bass as well. When you catch white bass this time of year, you intend to eat them. If you're not releasing them, put them on ice immediately. That'll keep them in great shape. Get back in, clean them immediately. Man, they are excellent eating if you take care of them in the hot part of summer. White bass is one of my favorite species to catch. You can catch a lot of them across the state this time, but one thing about it, you can't catch them if you don't go.
There's one. Feels like a white bass. The way he's pulling and the way he is absolutely not jumping. That's exactly what it is. Well, let me give you one more little tip here before our next break. All the pro anglers that fished those 2 big tournaments here and broke all those records said every time they were catching big largemouth bass, they were catching these. Lots of big white bass mixed in with them as well. Why? They're all feeding on the same thing. They're all eating those shad that are up on top of these humps. So here's the tip for you. No matter where you live, if you're catching other species on top of these ledges and humps like we're fishing today, whether it be crappie, white bass, stripers, walleye, even drum, it's an indicator that you're on a place where largemouth bass will be and they could be feeding. So use that as an indicator. A couple of other quick things before we go to break. Number one, if you want to book a guide trip here on Lake Fork, my good friend Matt Reed guides here. He only guides part of the year, so you'll have to contact him to see if he's guiding here at the time of the year you'd like to come. And if you're looking for a place to stay, I always stay at Lake Fork Marina and Motel. Great lodging, good food, tackle store, bait, gas, boat ramp, all in one location. You can contact them, the number on your screen as well.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Exide AGM Marine Batteries. Starts like new, stays like new longer. By Motor Guide Trolling Motors. Introducing the XI5 for ultimate boat control. By Fort Worth Nissan. Fox Sports Outdoors is powered by Fort Worth Nissan. And by Nitro Performance Fishing Boats. Champions aren't born, they're made.
Hey everybody, we're on Lake Fork, Texas today, demonstrating a technique that could very well mean the biggest bass you've ever caught in your life. We're talking about fishing deep humps and structures in the summer and early fall for big largemouth bass. And one of the ways that all the pros that caught those fish did it was by using a strolling technique. Now, the pro tournament circuits, what they cannot do is troll with either the outboard engine or the trolling motor. But what they did do was made a big long cast with a crankbait, push the button on their spool, turn on the trolling motor and reel off a whole bunch of line, stop the trolling motor, put that reel into gear and then crank the crankbait across those underwater humps and ridges. Now, when you're not fishing a tournament, you can stroll along. I'm using my Motor Guide XI5 and I'm just strolling along here, pulling the crankbait behind the boat. Now, I used that technique when I came here a day early to do some scouting before the actual television crew got here. I was using my little GoPro camera, and I did manage to stroll up one good largemouth bass. I actually hooked this fish in the lower lip and then also in the side of the gill, and he didn't fight very hard. But again, using the trolling motor, you want to go about 1.4 miles an hour is the perfect speed. On your Lowrance HDS unit, you can set it to show you speed over ground and it'll show you the speed you're going. Right now, it's time for more fishing reports for you.
Hi folks, this week's Lone Star Lakes is brought to you by the 19th annual Mad Dog Moore Memorial Bass Tournament. Held in honor of a fallen officer, this year's tournament will be September 12th at Oak Ridge Marina on Lake Fork, and it is a team bass format style tournament. Now, we're here at a new lake, or should I say a brand new open lake, that is Lake Worth. Lake Worth and Eagle Mountain have both been closed due to the severe flooding we've had for the spring and early summer rains. They've just been reopened and the fishing is actually fantastic on both lakes. You can start your early morning bass fishing with topwaters around the submerged vegetation, points and boat docks, and then move to spinnerbaits, traps, shallow diving crankbaits, and finally follow all of that up with your Texas rigged lizards, worms, or your jig and pig outfits around those docks. Now, cat fishermen on both lakes are going to find the cat fishing very good, up a little shallower than you may expect, somewhere less than 8 feet of water on a timbered point or around some other cover or submerged structure. Eagle Mountain is fishing almost exactly the same. Look for those brushy points, look for that new submerged vegetation, and you'll connect with both bass and catfish on both of these lakes. And finally, crappie fishermen want to work the boat docks, the boat docks, the boat docks, but you're looking for boat docks with brush piles. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you by the Mad Dog Moore Memorial Bass Tournament. Now let's check in with Mr. Bill Olson. He's on the coast.
Hi folks, this week's report is brought to you by Port Aransas on Mustang Island, the fishing capital of Texas, where anglers enjoy pristine bays, estuaries, 18 miles of surf, and the deep blue waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Plus the local restaurants will even cook your catch come sundown. Come fish and play Texas Island style. For more information, visit portaransas.org. Well, if forecasts are correct, we could be in for a milder than normal August starting this week. Now, whether or not this forecast becomes reality, look for speckled trout and redfish to be chasing bait in Sabine and Galveston Bays. Just look for the bird activity or slicks. Now, the surf could become a bit more consistent as high pressure relaxes its hold on Texas. On the upper Texas coast, the short rigs are an option when winds allow. San Luis Pass, Pascavallo, and Cedar Bayou are producing solid trout, both in the surf as well as inside the barrier islands over scattered shell or grass. Now, the grass beds near Mud Island, the shoreline around Trailer and Quarantine Islands, and deep holes in Redfish Bay have been good for trout, with redfish working shallow flats. The deeper rocks of Baffin Bay continue to hold some good trout. Pods of redfish have been working in Yarborough. Look for the surface activity or fish pushing away. Out of Port Mansfield, some of the better action has occurred on flats to the south of the East Cut Channel. South of Cullens, trout and redfish have been caught. The color line north of the Convention Center has given up trout on live and artificial baits. Plus, the jetties are holding a mixed bag of fish for those fishing the rocks. This weekend, both Saturday and Sunday have a double tide schedule of 2 high and 2 low tides each day. I'm Bill Olson, and I'll see you on the coast.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Tracker Boats. It's more than just a boat, it's a tracker. By Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. By Mercury Marine, official outboard of Fox Sports Outdoors. And by Lowrance Electronics. Find, navigate, dominate.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right to your Ask the Pro question for this week. Chris wants to know, what is the best technique for targeting bass in the hottest part of the summer? For the answer, we asked 2009 Bassmaster Classic champion Skeet Reese.
When those fish go really deep during the summertime, probably my favorite way is a drop shot. Either 8 or 10 pound nano fill with a 6 pound fluorocarbon leader, a little 4-inch havoc worm, just dropping vertical over the fish. When they get that deep, making long cast, you don't get quite the presentation you need sometimes. So getting over the top of them, looking at them on your electronics vertically is the easiest and quickest way to catch them as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Skeet. If you want some help from one of the pros, go to foxsportsoutdoors.com and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit your question. Now it's time for someone to win a new pair of sunglasses on the Costa Catch of the Week.
Time now for us to announce the winner in this week's Costa Catch of the Week contest. Here is Shannon Okrulik of Fayetteville, Texas, showing a 19.5 pound striped bass caught out of Canyon Lake in Central Texas that won first place in a tournament. If you'd like to be our next winner, just go to our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com, click in the Costa Catch of the Week box on the right side of the front page, enter your big fish photo, and you could be our next winner. What you'll win is a brand new pair of Costa sunglasses. You can see all of the Costa frame and lens styles at their website. Just go back to the front page of our website and click on the Costa logo. You can see all of the frame and lens styles there, including the frame style that I was wearing on this week's episode at Lake Fork. This frame style is called Luke. Next up on the Academy Right Stuff feature, you do need some specialized gear if you'd like to fish these deep humps like we did at Fork at your favorite lake and have a chance to catch some really big largemouth bass. First of all, trolling motor batteries are critical. I highly recommend the Exide AGM dual purpose and cranking batteries that are available at your local Academy Sports and Outdoors store. They last much longer. I can actually run mine for 2 full days without recharging them. They are better all the way around than any other deep cycle battery. Check them out, the Exide AGM batteries at Academy. I want to show you 4 different baits that you can use to catch these deep bass on these humps and ridges. The right side of your frame, there are 2 different sizes of crankbaits. The bigger size will dive to 20 feet deep. The little bit smaller size will dive to 15 feet deep. You need at least 15 on your crankbaits. On the left side of your frame, there is a big 10 or 12 inch Jean LaRue El Salto Grande worm. That's a large application for a plastic worm, and we've got it rigged on a football head. That's really important. And below that, it's a 5-inch long, 1 ounce spoon, and we caught a couple of nice ones on that as well. In a 2005 commencement address at Stanford University, Apple founder Steve Jobs said this: "Life is short. Don't waste it trying to live someone else's." Hey, those are great and wise words to live by, because too many of us waste too much time trying to live up to something someone else thinks we should be, trying to make our square peg fit in someone else's idea of a round hole, and it makes life completely fruitless. God created each one of us as a unique and special human being with a destiny and purpose all our own, and our responsibility is to figure out what that is. And when that happens, that's when life begins to get really fun. Hey, I'm glad you were along with us today at Lake Fork, Texas. Again, I don't want you to get so focused on Fork that you lose the fact that these same principles and techniques will work on any lake that's got big largemouth bass and the kind of structure that we were showing you today, these deep humps and ridges. Don't forget to join us on next week's episode. We'll be on at 5:30 p.m., a special time next Thursday, with a repeat airing Saturday morning at 7:30. Don't forget to join us on our Facebook page for lots of fishing news, videos, and photos that we don't have time for on the television show. And be sure and follow us on our Twitter feed at the address you see on your screen. It's there you'll get more fishing news and videos and photos. Plus, we give away lots of free gear on the Twitter feed. All you have to do is follow us to be eligible. From Lake Fork, Texas, until next week, I'm Barry Stokes. Be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.